Ross, you used my name in your vows. What were you thinking?
I was just thinking and remembering things in the past, and all I could think of was you.
Hello, from across the monitor.
Because we sit across a monitor from each other.
Yeah. It's been a while. We took a hiatus, and it's the dead of winter.
Well, we're almost on the other side of it.
Yeah, but we're not on my scooter yet.
Not yet. Soon.
Yeah. So luckily we have videos we can watch of when it's lovely and warm and we can ride. And right now we're just staring out the window at a lovely grayscale that is Washington State. We just lived through snowpocalypse.
It wasn't that bad.
It was terrible.
She's upset because her car wouldn't drive in the snow because the snow was too deep.
It was terrible. Yuck. Anyway, moving on. We apologize for the hiatus if you've missed us. You probably haven't, but maybe.
We've missed you.
We have, but I think we kind of needed a little time out there because this is difficult. This brings up stuff.
Our brevity and comedic ways may not show it, but it does kind of wear on you.
It does, so we appreciate your patience. If you haven't missed us, that's all right too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're just happy anyone listens to us. Ramble on. So it's been one of our inspirations for doing this podcast was talking with some friends that were going through a thing. And we were talking about remembering versus being reminded in grief. So remembering a person versus being constantly reminded about the loss is what we're talking about today. And we're using Ross and Rachel as an example because I think they were constantly reminding each other of a failed relationship. And they got together and then they broke up, and then they got together and then they broke up, and they were constantly in a group of people that would be there to remind them of their loss. So that's what we're talking about today.
And we're not generalizing anything. We are just speaking from our side of it. In context, these things could be inverse, so it just depends.
Right. So as a reminder, I'm coming from a place of loss from a divorce. So my previous significant other is still alive as far as I know. And so it's a different grieving pattern.
And my side of it is being a widower, having suddenly lost a spouse.
Right. So we come from different approaches. But yes, this could be a widow and a widower, two divorcees. This fits everybody. So you don't have to fit into a certain category. Maybe you just broken up with somebody. This doesn't have to be a catastrophic death situation.
No, if you were in a good, tight relationship, whether it was marriage or not, it'll hurt.
Certainly. Even two best friends.
Yeah.
So this is really open to whoever's hurting. So let's talk a little bit about the process of remembering versus being reminded. How would you define those two things?
Well, remembering is, for me, hearing a phrase, maybe a familiar voice, seeing something, smelling something that carries a memory with it. That is remembering. Being reminded is, I hear, oh, did God take your wife? Well, first of all, that's not how that works. That's being reminded. Oh, did your late wife and yourself do this, do that? That's being reminded. Remembering is, for me, a bad thing. It's usually a very fond memory, something very good.
And being reminded feels like what?
It doesn't, well, now, I mean, it's not as bad, but it's definitely not what I would say is, I wouldn't call it fond.
Not constructive.
It's usually not jolting, but, it wasn't there, and then, well, there's nothing, it's not attached to a good memory. Let's put it that way.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And in my case, remembering can bring up a lot of tripping points for me. I try not to spend a lot of time there, although it's hard to miss when you're hanging around people who were there with you, your children or grandchildren or whatever. I versus being reminded. So I had a moment during the holidays when I called a family member, and one of them was going through some memory issues and they couldn't remember how they knew me. And so her significant other said, "It's Stacy, she used to be married to," and mentioned my ex-husband's name, and it jolted me back. I was unprepared for that moment. And it brought up anger. I was angry that that's how I was still defined. And it's been 12, 13 years. So sometimes being in those moments can make you feel upset, can make you feel angry, or bring up all the sadness part, not the fond memory part.
And if that happens, just remember, it's okay. Nobody gets to tell you, oh, you're too sensitive, oh, you shouldn't feel that way.
Right.
If you hear either of those two phrases, pick up the nearest axe handle and let them have it.
Or just walk away.
Yes, dear.
We have different ways that we process our emotions. So remembering generally is something positive, and they can help us process our grief. And if you can pair it with gratitude, if you can put it together with gratitude, and then you can look beyond the loss, and then you can just be in that happy place of the memory.
Mm-hmm.
They can also give us hope for a future.
Well, absolutely.
I know when we were first married, I was very much looking forward to creating things that are now memories for us. You know, when you're in a new relationship, you have no memories to go back to necessarily. But now I go back to sitting by the river and just getting to know each other, or our wedding day, or I don't know, just someplace we might have gone while we were dating. Now we have memories.
We do.
I like that.
And I haven't told her yet, but I'm Batman.
What?
No, I'm not.
No, you're Superman to me, so. And I'm Wonder Woman. Sometimes I wonder who I am. So sometimes the being reminded is actually more like digging up the grief. It's like putting a spade in the dirt and, oh, look what we found. Ugh.
Yeah, and again, very, very seldom is it attached to something good.
Right. So if you're moving into a new relationship with somebody, this takes on whole new meanings. So if you're moving into somebody else's environment, let's say you're moving in with somebody and they have all the reminders still up. Pictures, mementos, treasures, household items, hobbies, decorations, all the things. Then you're both being constantly reminded rather than creating a new space.
Which is why I like to refer to it as finishing the old book and you're starting a new book. You're not starting a new chapter in the same book. It's a new book.
Right. So this is where communication, conversation needs to happen. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of everything from your past. There are things that you can hang on to if you both feel comfortable with it. There's an explanation as to why this is important. I've got a rocking chair that I've had since, I don't know, the 1800s. I'm not that old, but I've had it for a very long time. And it's just a family memento that's just become a part of our decor. I don't think it's a big issue. I have redecorated it so it looks a little different.
The only time I have an issue with it
Is moving it.
No, I don't mind that. It's when I stub my toe on it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it does bite.
It weighs about 400 pounds. It's a serious chair.
It's a serious ride, which is why it's still in one piece. We have dishes from your past. Mm-hmm. We have equipment and all kinds of stuff. So, some things are just material things. But if your home is still surrounded by pictures of your past, that can be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that conversation should be, not only should it be had, it should be had in an adult, civil manner.
Right. And early. Like, don't fester that thing.
No. That's how things blow up, right? I mean,
Yes.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're the person whose home somebody is moving into, maybe take a moment, look around at your surroundings and say, is this going to damage my new relationship? Is this going to impede us from being able to build a new future together?
So almost like you're saying, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah.
Huh.
I know.
Now I actually know what that means. I just thought it meant,
Actually walking a mile?
yeah, in somebody else's shoes.
Wearing a pair of stilettos or...
6-inch, yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, no, don't do that. That's bad. Let's talk about the remember when game for just a minute. So my parents were divorced when I was 6, and yet my parents frequently connected through my childhood and even adulthood. Whether it was a party, maybe my graduation, I don't know. There were just times when both my parents, they didn't live close to each other. One lived in LA and one was in San Jose. When we were all together, my mom was notorious for playing the Remember When game. They went to high school together, so they had a lot of past memories, and their families were pretty close as well. So there was a lot of connecting there. But as a kid and as an adult, it made me feel really uncomfortable to have them play the Remember When game. So I don't know that it's a healthy thing to do. Or conversely, if you're with, say, friends or family members, they get together with you and they're playing the Remember When game with you, then that other significant person can feel really out of touch, really excluded from a conversation. So it's okay to have memories and talk about them, but, make sure that you're still including that new person in the situation. I think we've both been there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty normal, but not fun. But that's okay.
Well, it's like when we're talking to friends, and you say, we lived in...
And you always have to say...
I just say, the other guy, not me.
Right.
First of all, I would never live in that place, and then second...
It wasn't you. You weren't guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't get mad about it. I just gently
clarifying.
Put it out there that no, that wasn't me. You get those weird sideways glances. No,
wow, you used to live there? No. You drove a what? Yeah. Yeah. Clarification's important, especially if they're new friendships and they don't know your past.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that's okay.
Yeah, but if I got bent out of shape about it,
right.
there's probably something a little deeper there.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Or if you do, talk about it and say why you're getting bent out of shape.
Well, just don't get bent out of shape, but talk about it.
Right.
We can't control that. We really can as adults. We really, really can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's a myth that they can't.
So it's mental yoga.
Yeah. Oh, I just got mad and didn't realize what I was beep. Yeah.
That kind of sounds like a guy thinking.
For the most part, but
yeah.
But you can't control it.
I think girls, we can definitely go there pretty quickly. But that's because, according to Mark Gungor, and I don't think he's wrong, we attached every thought to an emotion.
No, I believe that's absolutely true.
It's all wired together. Yeah. It's not a separate box like guys have.
No.
Nope. The dog is attached to the refrigerator, that's attached to the bills, that's attached to the job, it's attached to the mother-in-law, whatever. They're all connected.
So that would be like the dog that we babysit on occasion and pay the cheese tax to.
Yeah.
Our little Lulu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's our little adopted friend.
She's our godchild.
She's our god puppy. Yeah. She's fun. Which kind of brings us to another point of building a future together. What's important in building new relationships? What are important components to building a new foundation? Because as you say, you're starting a new book. This isn't building on the past. It doesn't mean the past isn't there, but you're now building a new foundation. So what are the foundational points that you think are important in a new relationship?
Well, trust, honesty, trust, communication.
Yeah.
Trust.
So what I'm hearing from you is trust is important.
From my world that I came from, it's number one.
It is. So
respect and trust have to be
right. I'm thinking more material things. Like, I know one thing that...
a motorcycle.
Naturally. Something with 2 wheels. Very important.
I know.
You're hilarious. Yes, a motorcycle. But actually, okay, so in that vein, this is something that we have gotten to enjoy together. That's just strictly ours. I didn't have that in my past relationship. You had it for a brief period of time.
Brief moments.
Yeah. But it's become a pretty significant part of our relationship and our world.
Sure.
As you know, if you watch the videos that go with our podcasts, we like to be on 2 wheels, whether we're together on one motorcycle or I'm on my little scoot and he's on the motorcycle. It's all good. I know it was important to me that we keep the friendships that we had before we were a couple, but it was really important to me that we create new friendships as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been very blessed with amazing opportunities for friendships.
We have a few things that are yours and mine, but they're also ours. But it's important to have the we, our stuff in that relationship.
Yeah, maybe it's a new hobby. Maybe it's special places that you like to go. Maybe it's shared experiences or
friends,
a new place to live.
Yeah.
That was kind of important for us. We needed to get out of one small town to another because in our old small town, everyone knew us in the before world. So we were often reminded, and that just wore me out after a while. The look of pity and confusion on people's faces. It's kind of nice to be somewhere where we are just us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was important to me. Being in a space that's just ours, in a location that's ours. This is our home. I didn't move into somebody else's home. You didn't move into somebody else's home. This is our home. Doesn't mean you have to do that. That was just important.
I would live in a tent in the woods before moving into somebody else's home.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's okay to want those things, and I think it's really important to have those things because that's how you're building the new stuff.
Yes. And in my perspective, when you're building that relationship together, it doesn't change the way you feel when you remember the previous relationship, but it does change how you feel when you're reminded about the previous relationship. And I think it's simply because there's something more blended there that helps to take the edge off of that stuff.
Right. So when you're with friends that you had before you were in your new relationship, I think it's important to keep the conversation moving into a future mode rather than constantly talking about the past.
Right.
Unless it's a funny story.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. You want to hang on to those.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Like a compass in a boat.
Yeah.
I feel like that story has some metaphor.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it can apply to a great many things in life.
It could. It could be a relationship with God that you need God as a compass. Don't be trying to do this on your own. We'll save that story for another podcast, but that's your teaser because it's a good one. It's my favorite story.
Yeah, we can call that one Look Before You Leap.
Sure. Yeah. Or always have some guidance. Somebody to guide you or something. Yeah. Don't try doing this by feel. It's not going to work. Your own intuition doesn't always get you where you need to be. Sometimes it can, but not in the fog.
Today's scripture is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope.
Okay, so I found Dr. Alan Wolfelt, and he was talking about moving forward in the grief process. So I'm going to quote him here. In truth, paradoxically, is that in grief, we have to go backward before we can go forward. Remembering the past is the very thing that eventually makes hoping for the future possible. Mourners' lives will open up to renewal, hope, love, and joy only to the extent that they first embrace the past. Those who fail to go backward before marching forward after a loss often find themselves stuck in the morass of carried grief. The loss created by death is the loss of the physical presence of the person who died. In the physical plane, the relationship with the person is ended, and so they grieve. But on the emotional and spiritual path, they're still connected. And I really like the way he divides those three things. That physically, you're not with that person anymore, but you will always be emotionally and spiritually connected to that person.
Always.
Right.
Yeah.
They were a significant part of your life. That's why you're grieving. If they weren't significant, you wouldn't feel grief and sadness.
Yeah. And I do agree with what he said. I don't know if it's necessarily going backwards, but if you're not remembering, if you're not processing those memories, the feelings that you're having, you can't. I don't know how you could possibly move forward in your grief. Or your life, for that matter.
In my case, I had to go backwards so that I could learn the lessons to not fall into the same patterns for my future. a little different, but it was important to look back so that I could create a new path for myself. I don't want to be walking in circles.
You can, but you really don't get anywhere.
You don't. And you're going to wonder why those footsteps look all too familiar. Yeah. So when we remember in a moment or being reminded, it can take us by surprise, like the phone call
Yes.
that I had. Like completely unexpected. It's like a time warp, and we're transported backwards without the benefit of Captain Kirk or somebody to help us navigate that time warp. I know, our Trekkie just kind of broke through that barrier there. It's okay to spend a few treasured moments there and enjoy the memory and then be grateful for those memories. But then you got to move forward. If you stay there, then you're not really healing from that.
Yeah.
It's going to take practice.
Well, you can carry the memories. Don't let the memories carry you.
Ooh, that needs to be a t-shirt.
It does.
Yeah. And there are probably lessons in some of those memories.
We're deep and profound like that.
Wow, we are. We should start a merch. All right, merch is coming soon. Keep your eye out. We'll have coffee cups, t-shirts, motorcycle gear. Yeah. And grief is a journey, kind of like riding a motorcycle. The point isn't to forget the past. The point is to live with your memories and gratitude, like we just talked about.
Yep.
So if we're using a metaphor of motorcycle riding, let's talk about the day we got into that really deep gravel.
Oh, yeah?
Number one, we probably should have checked road conditions before we took this detour.
Where's the spontaneity in that?
Well, it became a little scary.
Yeah, it was a daunting point in our trip. Yes.
It was. So we thought we would take the scenic route home, which, as I recall, was my idea because I don't like to be on the freeway.
98% of the time, it's a great idea.
But we were not prepared for the road construction that was happening, and we found ourselves behind a very slow-moving pickup truck in very loose, large pieces of gravel.
Very deep.
Very deep and huge. This wasn't really gravel. This was rock.
Yeah. They were probably 4 or 5 inch pieces of rock.
So, and we couldn't manage our speed because we were behind a slow-moving pickup truck. And if we stopped, we were going to fall over because there was no purchase under your feet in this rock. And the motorcycle weighs 1,000 pounds. It's a really big bike. So I just sat back and prayed. That was my job. My job was to not cry or jump anywhere off the motorcycle.
I just covered my eyes with my hands and didn't want to look.
No, that was my job. That's what I did. But I didn't grab you around the throat or anything. So.
You did not. You did great.
It was terrifying.
You didn't try to jump off the bike or anything.
No, I was terrified. What did you do as the operator of the equipment?
Managed the clutch, brake, throttle, and the steering.
Right. So you used your past experience of riding.
Yes.
Right? You went back to your memory banks and said, I've probably been here before.
Oh, I have.
On a different bike, in a different
A
situation.
lighter one, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right? So you use your experience and your memories to get you through that. But you didn't let any previous accidents or problems, you didn't go back and go, oh my gosh, I remember that one time I wiped out and let the fear guide you through that. You just use the experience from it and move forward.
Yeah, I'm not prone to panic.
No. But if you had been, or if you had gone backwards in that memory file and grabbed something that was not a pleasant thought, you would have choked up and we both would have fallen over. And
yeah, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great to look back on the experiences you had and learn from them and build up, but not let it paralyze you.
Yeah. And if you're riding your motorcycle backwards, 2 things. You're going to see where you've been, and you're probably going to crash. Because
I don't think that's a good idea.
No, it's not a good idea.
No. So, maybe put your passenger on backwards. They can look in the past for you. I'm not doing that.
No,
that
okay.
seat's not even going to fit that way.
No, it wouldn't.
No. Mm-mm. Plus, I get motion sick. That's bad. You don't want to barf in a helmet.
I could put a little rearview mirror on your helmet so you can see behind you.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Or you just use yours because I can usually see your rearview mirror.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Yeah. A lot of life lessons on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly how not to be scared. Which is good. It's good to trust. Talk about trust.
Oh, seriously.
I'm completely trusting you to not muff up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the most part, you haven't.
For the most part.
For the most part. You have to rebuild trust sometimes.
You're very brave.
And I have my own scooter where I'm in charge of how it goes.
Well, you said it looked like what I was doing was fun.
It
So it
is
only
fun.
made sense that you find out.
Yeah, it is fun. Anyway, we digress. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about if you find yourself in a situation where you're being constantly reminded of your significant other's past life, whether it's maybe you're at a family reunion and all anybody can talk about is what used to happen or their life with that other person. Or maybe you walk into your mother-in-law's house and the only pictures that are up are of the significant other and their previous partner. And there's nothing of you in that house. Or a conversation with a friend and all they can bring up is past stuff. So how do you manage that as the new person? I know for me, I would go in the kitchen and make cookies because that's what I do to cope. But if I'm in somebody else's house, that's going to be a little awkward.
For me, it would depend. Do I like my in-law or do I not like my in-law?
Well, let's say you like them.
Then I'm going to be the bestest person that I can possibly be. And the next time we go, it would just be pictures of me on their walls.
Perfect. So would you provide them maybe pictures of you and your partner?
No.
Is that too passive aggressive?
Yeah, maybe a little vain.
Or you could just Photoshop yourself into the picture.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Wow, I don't remember them being at that picnic, but there they are.
For me, and this is, I'm being serious here at this moment. For me, an in-law or a relative's house, that's not going to bother me. It's not my house. I don't have to live there. They can do whatever they want. And I'm not going to take offense or be hurt by it because it's not my house.
Yeah. I know I found out through somebody in our family that went to my in-laws' house, my previous in-laws' house, and I thought I was very close to them, and they had taken down all of the pictures that had me in it. And at first I was kind of hurt by that because we had a 30-year relationship with them. Then on the other hand, I thought, well, they don't want to be reminded of a failed marriage, failed relationship. And maybe it makes room for, the ex's future person. So I was okay with it. But it hurt at first. I think it's important to maybe, if it is bothering you, it's okay to speak up. And maybe the only person you have that conversation with is the new significant other and say, hey, next time we go to your mom's house, why don't we take them one of our wedding pictures? Or let's all take a new family picture together. Maybe we can hire a photographer and do a new group picture or whatever.
Or I'm going to take a bottle of bourbon, something. Doesn't matter.
Sure. Or a motorcycle ride, whatever. Yeah. It's okay, though. My point is it's okay to speak up and say, I'm feeling a little left out.
Yes.
It may not be completely hurt, but you're feeling a little left out. And to be honest, it may take a couple of years for that new family or friend to get there because they have to learn to trust you, right?
It's true.
Because we have no idea what your new significant partner's past is with this friendship or family member. If you are husband or wife number 5 or 6, they're probably not going to just embrace you with full openness.
Shocker.
They're going to be like, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's all right. You just be you, and if they love you, then that's great. And if they don't, find someone else that'll love you. There's people out there that'll love you. Not everyone's going to love you. That's okay.
Yeah.
If you're having those conversations, though, likely your emotions are going to be running pretty high. Especially if you're the girl, because we don't know how to stay. Most of us, as girls, if we're feeling a little hurt, left out, or whatever, there'll probably be some tears or yelling. It depends on how you deal with stuff, and that's okay. It's because we're girls. It's how we're wired. It's why we make good moms and grandmas and all the things. So just know that's coming and maybe warn that person. Okay, I'm probably going to cry. We say that a lot here. Okay, I'm going to cry, but I'm going to tell you the story. I'm going to cry, but I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling. And it's a warning. Not necessarily an apology, but just be warned. I'm feeling kind of emotional about this thing. And this is where the trust comes in and the respect that we give that person room to cry or feel upset or do the thing. And that's just all part of growth.
Yep.
If you're on the receiving end of that, you may feel defensive or you may feel hurt or you may feel it may bring up your own grief, but try to be a good listener. And it's okay if you don't solve the problem in that moment, because likely you're both processing. You opened up an old suitcase and, oh boy, there's all the stuff and you got to process through the stuff, and that's okay. And it may take a day or two, an hour or two, however long that process takes. But again, that's part of the growth journey. If you're solving it right away, something's probably not being dealt with.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So also, I think it's important to respect the other person's past.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
You don't want to shame them for how they lived their life before they were with you, or embarrass them, or...
No, you lived in California, and I don't hold that against you.
Yeah, except you do, but that's okay.
I married you, so...
California and Portland. All the places you love.
Yes. Yes, I would never hold your past against you.
Yeah. Or me, you. Yours is definitely more colorful than mine.
Oh, if anybody should be held to account on it, it would be me, yes.
So we want to respect the other person and their life choices, and hopefully they've moved past anything that has been dangerous or toxic.
I'm Batman.
Are you the Michael Keaton Batman?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's really the only acceptable one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even Adam West. He was a goofball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're the person who's moving into a family or a friend group or whatever, it's going to be difficult, but do your best to fit in. I mean, unless it's dangerous or toxic behavior, but
Yeah, don't change who you are to do it.
Right. But don't stand back and guard yourself.
Correct.
People are probably not going to reach out to you. You're going to have to step into it. And that can be awkward and uncomfortable. And will probably bring up some grief. You notice that it's a familiar dipped in pool.
Yeah. Well, we'll just walk in like you own it.
Put on a hard hat and carry a clipboard.
Yeah. Nobody asks. Done it several times. Yep.
Just pretend like you belong there. I struggle with that one. I'm a people person. I like people and I like to meet new people. But when I'm in a situation where everyone has a past with each other, they've been around each other for decades and they've all got stories and experiences, I find it very awkward to step in and be the new person. That can be very daunting for me. But eventually we create new experiences with these people and then it's easier. But at first, you kind of feel like the odd guy out. That's all part of the fun.
Yeah, for a guy, it's a little different. You know, if I'm around a group of guys and same thing, they would have all that long history they've been. You know, you just wait for an opportunity, like one of them will show a picture of his, 1982 Honda Rebel 250, and you just go, oh, that's cute. And
I got a Harley.
The conversation gets going, but you just have to put it out there.
You do. You need to find a way to connect.
Yeah.
Maybe it's talking about gardening or making cookies. There's a theme here.
We like cookies.
We like cookies. Next week, we're going to go to New York and we're going to visit Edith and Archie Bunker because we're talking about anger. It comes up in the grief journey. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Can it be used for good? Batman?
It can.
Yeah.
It can.
I think Batman
in context, anger can be a good thing. The Bible even says, be angry, but don't sin. So anger is an emotion that is God-given. So it's like any other emotion. How do you use it?
Right.
And that is on you as an adult.
So that's next week's topic.
Girls and men were men. Mister, we could use a man.